Let's quickly get started. It's all about the Tigers of Nigeria. They bowed out of the 2025 FIBA Afro Basketball Championship after suffering a 75-91 defeat to Senegal in the quarterfinals on Wednesday night in Luanda, Angola. The loss ended Nigeria's hopes of replicating the success of their female counterparts who recently lifted the women's continental crown. It also dashed dreams of a second Afro basketball title after the historic triumph in 2015. The Tigers had advanced to the last 8 unbeaten, but became the second team after Cote d'Ivoire to see their campaign abruptly ended despite an impressive group stage run. Senegal's victory was powered by Valencia guard Branco Badio, who delivered a masterclass performance. Badio scored a game-high 32 points, dazzling with fearless drives and long-range shooting that Nigeria struggled to contain. The opening quarter was tightly contested, with both teams exchanging leads before Nigeria ended 24-23. However, the Senegalese seized control in the second quarter, sparked by Jean-Jacques Bois's three-pointer that gave them the lead at 26-24. Another from Amarsila stretched the gap, and Nigeria never recovered. By the third quarter, the Lions had opened a commanding 24-point advantage. Although the Tigers fought back in the fourth quarter, Senegal's early cushion proved decisive. The five-time Afro basketball champions sealed the semi-final ticket and will face Mali, who stunned Cote d'Ivoire 102-96 after overtime in one of the tournament's most thrilling games. Mali's Aliou Diarra put a career-defining display, recording 35 points and 16 rebounds, while teammate Mohamed Koulibaly added 24 points to propel the Eagles into their first semi-final since 1999. Cote d'Ivoire's captain Solo Diabate considered that Diarra's brilliance was the decisive factor that ended their 40-year quest for the second Afro basketball crown. Well, it's getting even hotter by the day. Yes, everyone is talking about the Afro Basketball 2025, and the story this morning is that the Tigers of Nigeria have now bowed out of the tournament after a very wonderful group stage campaign. But then, Sam, finally it comes to end. The Tigers of Nigeria.
Well,
at least no presidential handshake. No $100,000 promise.
I mean, that certainly should have been a very good incentive, really, for the Tigers. Unfortunately for them, they would not be getting a presidential handshake and, of course, $100,000. But that's besides the point. I think many Nigerians were expecting the Tigers to be able to curtail the Senegalese team. First and foremost, the fact that they went through the group stage unbeaten, beating teams that mattered, including the defending champions, the Tunisians. I would have put my money on the Tigers to actually see out Senegal. But we said yesterday that it was always going to be a difficult game, really, for the Tigers. The Senegalese team are also one of the best, basketball nation on the continent of Africa. So, taking their chance against the Nigerians, I mean, they actually, they see that coming for themselves. But you want to say first and foremost what happened in that game. For a game where we thought we actually had, a hand in the first quarter. It was the Nigerian team, who were actually flying, maybe by a slim margin, 24-23. But then in the second quarter, you'd have expected us to put a commanding performance, maybe to better the gap between us and the Senegalese. But that didn't happen because the Senegalese came out even, better in the second quarter. And that was where I feel they killed the game against the Tigers, winning 30-14. I mean, it was a humongous mark. They were able to extend the difference between themselves and Nigeria. And came the third quarter where I felt we also were shallow, having gone that bad, in the second quarter. We're supposed to, maybe rise to the occasion in the third quarter, but that didn't happen because we also lost in the third quarter, 13-23 against the Senegalese. And at that moment, it was almost over. At that moment, it was us chasing, the pack in the fourth quarter. And we even, didn't do that well because our turn-up, in the fourth quarter wasn't as impressive as we would have expected. Winning 20-15. Meaning the Senegalese were also on our trail, not giving us that much, distance to be able to cut the point gap. It's the end of the road, like you said. We had a lot of fantastic, performance from the Tigers, but they will look back at that game and say what exactly happened in the second and the third quarter. What could they have done to salvage the situation? Because when you lose in that manner, it more like, exposes you. It tells you that you're a very weak team. And that is exactly, what the Senegalese took from the Tigers. Well, it's the end of the road. It's the end of, the Afro Basket Championship right there for the Tigers. We've always complained about, how we've not been really convincing or commanding on the continent. I mean, as against what our ladies have done, on the continent of Africa. It's just one title we've had since 2015. I mean, the question I posed during the start of the tournament was, can we actually get our hands on the second title since 2015? Unfortunately, we cannot. Unfortunately, we cannot go beyond this point. Unfortunately, we will not progress to the semi-finals of the Afro Basketball Championship. But then, one thing it certainly is, I think the NBBF has a lot of work to do as far as the Tigers are concerned. Yes, we did see the coach, in is it Abdurrahman? Yes, now Mohamed Abdurrahman. He has a lot of work to do. If we're going to bring someone to help him, or even a new manager, in the course, I think that's what we should be looking at. But beyond that, well, good outing for the likes of Joshua Okogie, good outing for some other players who were able to turn up. I think maybe we can build on this performance or performances. I do not know, but at the end of the day, OJ, you want to say, not the expectation we had from the Tigers, especially with the fact that the Tigers had actually laid a solid foundation for the Tigers to build on.
Well, of course, the Tigers of Nigeria finally bowing out of the tournament, but I'm not sure Nigeria should really be disappointed like that, right? I mean, after all, they had maybe unbeaten the group stage, beat
Tunisia, Cameroon, Sudan.
They were actually good until this unfortunate result, from yesterday.
I mean, you would expect us to, get better with the tournament. You do not win 3 games in the group stage and fall in the quarterfinals. The most important. So you would have expected the Tigers to, to roll back. I mean, I do not have a problem with them going some points down, but then how do you come back in the game? Unfortunately, they were unable to come back, especially in the third quarter. After they had actually gone down that much in the second quarter, I would have expected, a fight-back spirit, just like we did see, from our ladies. If you recall, the Tigers also did beat the Senegalese ladies en route to lifting the Afro Basket Championship as well, the FIBA Afro Basket Championship. So I would have expected them to take a cue from the ladies. I mean, okay, how did they play? How did they?
But it never happened. Anyways, at the moment, the ladies are the ones flying the flag really, really high for us as a country. I would say big shout out to all of the women out there this morning.